I don't think I've ever been so excited to make a video. So today I am potentially introducing you or reintroducing you to the Pendragon series. This is all one series. These are two different printings. So let me give you a little bit of context. These are the same books. These are the original covers that my mother and I scoured for to find. And I have a few other copies of original covers. For example, these four with Bobby's face on the side. I don't obviously have them for all the paperbacks. I do have the hardback version of book 6. I have the paperback versions of book 9 and 8. So you can still find them if you know where to look for them in like resale shops or everything like that to still get the original covers. These covers are ones that you can just get on Amazon in a box set, not hard at all to find. They're both relevant to this video because this stack of books is actually going to get mailed to DJ McHale and I'm hopefully going to get them signed. So I'm putting out all the positive vibes that once I mail these and get them back, I will then have a signed copy of every book in the Pendragon universe. I am so excited. And then this set here, I plan to annotate, and I would also be willing to lend these out to folks to read once I have my annotations in them, because again, these covers are a little bit more easily replaceable. Am I nervous to mail these? I am. But I am putting all of my faith that they will get there safely and they will be returned to me in safely and even better. Today is January 6th of 2024. I plan to mail these out on Monday, January 8th. And so this will be kind of an update from there. So I'm going to put these to the side for now. So in case you haven't heard of the Pendragon series, it is what I consider to be like a middle grade to YA series. I feel like the first book you could definitely have like a 7th or an 8th grader read. But once you get to the 10th book, I feel like you just have to be older to understand some of the concepts in there, maybe even upper YA by these later books down here. Because book 10 for this paperback version is almost 600 pages long, and I don't really feel like middle grade books are that long. However, I feel like this is a lot more attainable for somebody in middle school to read. All this here at the end is a sneak peek into the next book, so it's 374. So maybe it should traditionally be high school or whatnot, but I think you could start middle grade, especially if they're a higher level reader, into the end of high school. That's how I treat this series. And with this series, you follow Bobby Pendragon. He becomes the traveler for Second Earth because there's a first Earth and a third Earth, so we do have some time travel within Earth, and then there's also travel to other planets. So there are 10 planets / times, I guess you could say, within the universe of Hala is what it's called, and the travelers are meant to protect it. A villain named Saint Dane is trying to win the tipping points of each world, you could say. And so it's up to the travelers to not let Saint Dane win the tipping points. One thing that I like about this series a lot, because again, this came out in the early 2000s, I believe. I just confirmed the first book came out in 2002. So this was during when there were a lot of other series, I feel like, kind of hyped up and getting attention. You can think of like Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, maybe Warrior Cats. I don't actually know the time frame on that universe, but I loved Pendragon. This was like my series. I wish it was a TV show. And one of the things that I like about this book is that Bobby doesn't always win every time. Not all of these books are the same formula where it's like Bobby defeats Saint Dane and then Saint Dane somehow comes back. So it's really interesting to see the progression of which worlds are won, which worlds are lost, and then what happens in the final battle in the 10th book. So some people might feel like that's a spoiler. I don't feel like that's a spoiler because I feel like everybody knows in like the Harry Potter series that it's the good guys winning. But with these books, you don't really know. So my plan is for January to start with The Merchant of Death, and then ideally I'm going to read these all throughout the year, leading me up to, I would say, November, December, realistically, because I do have other books that I want to read during this time, but I feel like it'd be really fun to document my year-long process. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like in terms of recording days or whatnot, but I do want to document this rereading journey for myself and for others that I can send the video to. I want to start The Merchant of Death today on January 6th of 2024, and I don't know how far I'm going to get into it. The thing with this series is I remember reading this whole series in like a 2-week time frame. And I want to be more intentional, annotate all of that with the readings instead of it continuously being a fever dream. Now, I think what's going to be interesting with this reread is that I feel like I remember a lot of details because I've read these books pretty slowly before and really kept a lot in. I'm going to reorder these books super quick by how much I remember versus what I don't remember. All right, so I've reordered them. So the book I remember the most is number 8, The Pilgrims of Rain. This is my Roman Empire of not only a book series, but of this book specifically. I'm so excited to go back to this one, which is book number 8. It's kind of odd that I remember book number 8 the most when I was like reviewing this list. Then we have book 4, Reality Bug. This book has my favorite traveler out of them all. Then The Merchant of Death, because it was the first book, but I definitely feel like these other two have a few more impactful moments for me. But I'm going to leave this one off to this side because this is the one I'm so excited to read, obviously, first. Then we have Blackwater. This is something. The Quillen Games, man, it was just like thinking about moments in these books just make me smile. And I'm like so happy to go back into these worlds. The 10th book is a little, pretty much near the middle. I feel like the first part of this book is extremely fever dreamy. Book 2, The Lost City of Far. I feel like I remember the ending way better than I remember the beginning or anything related to travel. Then book 3, The Never War. I feel like I remember the main tipping point of it, but I feel like there was a lot of back and forth between Second Earth and this book takes place in First Earth. I feel like it's so hazy. Raven's Rise, I feel like I could tell you the last chapter, and that's like it. And then I feel so bad because my second favorite traveler is From Zada, but this is the book I remember the least out of anything. I remember very few details. As I think about it, it's coming back more and more, but I definitely remember this one the least. It'll be exciting to revisit all of the books and see what happens, and maybe I'll get some reactions or whatnot, but my plan is to track how long it takes me to read and annotate each book, and then I'm going to reflect on each book at the end of this. In terms of spoilers for these books, I don't really know what exactly it's going to look like yet with my summaries, but I don't want to hold back a discussion with these books because I do feel like a lot of people have read the Pendragon series, and so this might be a little good Kickstarter reminder for that. But again, I'm starting January 6th. You're going to watch all of my reactions in one video, but I would definitely encourage you to read along, maybe continue to come back to this video. I don't know. Or if you don't want to read a 10-book series and you want a summary of all of them, then this is probably the perfect video for you. So, hobby ho, let's go. Book 1, The Merchant of Death. All right, today is January 25th. I did finish The Merchant of Death 2 days ago, but I got my tetanus shot 2 days ago, which I guess you're supposed to get every 10 years, and it just really messed me up for a little bit. So I didn't film my reaction right away, but oh my goodness, I loved going back into this world. I feel like giving honest ratings of these books too, because I think on Goodreads initially I just gave all of them 5 stars. This to me is a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The only thing I really forgot related to this book is that the villain is portrayed as being very heavyset, and in my head, I know it's probably over-exaggerated and fantastical, but it still just didn't leave me with the best feelings. And I think books, age well or not well over time. That was something in this book I don't think aged the best, in my personal opinion, but I still loved everything else. So in this first book, Bobby learns that he is a traveler, so he gets to go to different territories to try to save them during a turning point. He goes with his uncle Press to the first territory, Denderon. We have the Malagos and the Bedouin. They are 2 different tribes, but the Bedouin control the Malago, and Bobby has to try to restore peace between them. What I think is really interesting about this book in particular is that you learn that just freeing a people isn't necessarily the best answer. It's about trying to make sure they have peace in the future, and giving the Malago full freedom from the Bedouin, making them now a tyrannical class of people, would also not have been a good solution. So I think there's a little more thinking that DJ put into these novels in terms of what is actually good for a turning point versus what is bad for a turning point. So I thought that was really interesting. You start to learn the rules of what a traveler is like. You learn all of these through journals that his friends are writing, and the main friend he's writing to is Mark Diamond. But when Mark gets the first journal, he's like, oh my gosh, I don't believe any of this. And in the first journal, Bobby says that he kisses Courtney Chetwin, happen. And so Mark reaches out to Courtney and is like, hey, did you kiss Bobby? And she's like, what the heck? Bobby's missing. How do you know I kissed him? And Mark's like, okay, I gotta show you this. So those two now are reading Bobby's journals. That's how you get all of the stories in here. And I am super excited to get to now the next book after getting through this first one, The Lost City of Far, book 2 in the series. I am super excited, especially because one of the travelers in this book, his name is Spader. He is definitely one of my favorites. He's not, I don't think he's my like favorite. I definitely think that's book 4. So, but I'm still excited to get to this world. I feel like water is just, I don't know, an element that I like. And so I really love, I remember the descriptions of these worlds and specifically like all the colors and the technology that's on here. And this book I think might make me cry now. It didn't make me cry as a kid, but I think it's gonna make me cry. The fact that I remember why I'm going to cry, I might not cry, but at the same time I don't know, because reading book 1 specifically, I was way more engrossed than I was initially thinking. So we'll just have to see. I am excited to get to this. However, I don't think I'm going to start this one in particular until maybe January 27th or January 28th. It's going to be one of those 2 dates that I start this because I'm doing a readathon, and I decided, because I record all of my readathons, I'm not going to read the Pendragon books during my readathons, which means that I get to focus on these for the rest of the month. If I have time tonight, maybe I'll start it, but I don't know. I'm really excited to keep going. I feel like, yes, the other one took me quite a bit of time to get through. However, I was reading 2 other book club books before really diving too deep into Pendragon, and then I also got an ARC or an advanced reader copy read as well. And I feel like between the very end of January until February 6th, I don't really have any other like big book obligations. So I'm really hoping to get through this one pretty fast, because I feel like I definitely wanted to get through the first book faster, but I had other books in my priority list. So we'll see. I am on track now to finish these, you know, before the end of 2023. And I don't, like I said, want to rush through them too much, but I also do feel like if I'm given 3 hours to sit down and read, and this is the only book I really want to read, I now have the opportunity to do that instead of worrying about making sure I'm ready for book club or worrying about getting an advanced reader copy review and on time. I feel like I can actually sit down and read this, which is good. I've also been buddy reading a book with somebody else, and we're going to be hopefully finishing that book. I think I'll finish that book today if I start reading it, if not tomorrow for sure. And so then that also frees up time to read this book. So it'll be very interesting to see what the days say for the next few time lapses. So let's see when I read this. So yes, I have really only read The Lost City of Far for 1 day this month. It's been a wild reading month, but I have a package from here with all of these books are supposed to be signed by DJ McHale. I haven't opened them. I emailed him, paid for shipping, and I am I'm so excited to open these. Like I said, I have no idea what any of them look like. I just said my name was Anna. Am I hoping there's some like cute phrases in the books? Yeah, like a cute quote from a book, from the books or something. So, geez, he did a lot of tape on this. It's okay. I did a lot of tape too when I sent it to him. It was a reused box, so I'm gonna try to open this. As you can see me struggling right now. And then, okay, it's almost open. And then we're gonna see exactly what we're working with here. So I sent 10 books, obviously, one of each. I chose like my favorites. The first one in the series of the original covers my mom bought me, so it's super special. Lots of bubble wrap, more bubble wrap, more bubble wrap. Okay, let's look at them one by one. I'm literally so excited. I'm like, I'm all shaking. Okay, first one, Merchant of Death, which I've already read. Oh my god, I'm gonna cry. Okay, it says To Anna and So We Go by DJ McHale. I can't be crying over this right now. This is literally like a dream come true. Okay, that was book number 1. So maybe there will be cute phrases in all of them. I don't know. So this is book 2, what I'm currently reading. Okay, it says To Anna, Hobby Ho. Oh, stop. I'm sorry, this is so sweet. This is the 3rd one, and I really love the side covers. I actually rebought those recently because I wanted like the sides of them to all look cool. Another Hobby Ho. That's one of my favorite phrases. Okay, I don't know where book 4 is. Book 4 has one of my favorite travelers. I'm so excited to talk about her once I get there. He put To Anna, reality is overrated. And this is one of my favorites. Oh my god. I literally feel so incredibly grateful right now. Like, this is honestly amazing. Blackwater number 5. This says Kitty's Roost. I think I'm gonna have to check that one. I know. Oh, it's Kitty's Rule. The L kind of looked like a C. Oh my gosh, I literally can't. I know. I'm probably gonna lose it when I get to book 10. Oh my god. Okay. Book 6, Rivers of Zada. This is also a very exciting one. Okay, it says to Anna, that's the way it was meant to be. Oh, stop. All right. Then we get to the hardcovers. So I don't have softbacks of all of them, which is, I mean, like, fine, obviously by me. So this is the first one. Book 7, Quill and Games. Oh, Riggedy White. Oh my goodness. He did do little quotes in all of them. Okay, this one I totally forgot to take out my library, like, bookmark for. That was embarrassing. Should not have done that. This is my favorite book. This is absolutely my favorite book. Out of the whole series, this one's my favorite. So I'm... Oh! This is... No way. He said, to Anna, my least favorite cover. I didn't realize he hated this cover. My favorite book, his least favorite cover. Oh, that's great. Then we have 9, Raven's Rise. This one's a doozy. This says to Anna, the penultimate Pendragon. This one also had a library card in it, or a library sticker. Oh my god. I don't know what he's gonna write in this last one, but I just feel like it's gonna... I remember reading this book and sobbing. I just sobbed my eyes out. It says to Anna, yeah, the end. I feel so grateful. You are now looking at my most prized possessions. My 10 autographed Pendragon books. Oh my goodness. I can't wait to continue reading down this realm. And I don't know if I'm ever going to read these versions again, or like if I'm going to like preserve them in plastic. I absolutely can't wait. So let's get back to The Lost City of Far. Even though I'm recording this on March 1st, I did technically finish this on February 28th, which cutting it very close there. And it's not because I didn't want to finish it. It's because, like I said in an earlier clip, I know how this book ends. I don't want to specifically say how it ends, but losing an important character in a series, I feel like is always hard. And I didn't want to relive that. But that is part of this reread, is going through all the emotions, all the experiences. And then I've been thinking for the past 2 days, you know, what am I going to rate this? This honestly is a 5 out of 5-star book for me. I think it's wonderfully paced. I think the world is absolutely gorgeous. I think the mystery and the depth of the book is wonderful. There's nothing in here that leaves me with like a bad feeling except my hate for Sate and Dane. I absolutely love the territory of Chloral. It's one of my favorites. I've always had some type of affinity with water. So 5 out of 5 for this one. So book 1 was 4.5. This one's 5 out of 5. And now the next book, I feel like I'm already biased, is The Never War, which I'll be reading in March. This is more of a historical piece. It takes place in 1937, and I was a history teacher, so I'm very, very excited for this book. Now that I'm starting to reread the series, I feel like I'm starting to remember more and more about each book. So for this one, I think this was one where I didn't really remember too much of it. I think it was one of my like last ones that I had ranked, but I remember quite a bit more now that I've read The Lost City of Far. I'm like, okay, I remember who the traveler is in this book. I kind of remember the main pinnacle point. I don't fully remember how we get there, but I'm very excited to read this. And I think something unique about the Pendragon series that we're going to see evolve, especially in the later books that I'm remembering now, is that Mark and Courtney, Bobby's best friends, really have their own storylines that start to grow. And I think they really start to grow in book 5, but we saw more of it in book 2 with Mark and Courtney having the journals stolen from them and having to deal with that situation. So their storylines do develop a lot more in this. I will say, I don't know if you can see, but The Never War is actually shorter than The Lost City of Far, but because of the way that they get the journals, to me it makes sense for how this is shorter, because they actually get all the journals all at once instead of waiting for Bobby to send it to them, so there's actually less time for Mark and Courtney's story to develop. But I know their story develops here. We learn a lot more about acolytes in this one, I think, so I'm really excited. I don't know if I'm going to start reading this one necessarily today, but I was down here to film some other content, so I wanted to make sure I wrapped it up. I want to finish this definitely before the last day of March. That's one of my goals, is to maybe read this a little bit sooner, since it is a little shorter and I have a few less books to prioritize this month. I'm hoping I can make it happen, but let's see. Let's head to First Earth and get on to the 3rd book in the Pendragon series. It's April 2nd. I finished The Never War. I really am going to give this a 4 out of 5 stars. And so this is the lowest rated Pendragon for me so far. I just feel like it lacked some of the adventure and speed. However, this is such an important building book in the series because you have Pendragon and Spader who go to First Earth and meet the Traveler Gunny. And there is so much growth that Bobby has to go through in terms of learning like what is really right, even if it doesn't feel good, and making really tough calls, especially with his friendship with Spader based on Spader's actions. Bobby has a really bit of a reflective moment for one of the decisions he made. And then Gunny, I mean, you have this older man who is a traveler in his 60s. No other traveler is that old. And he is just giving such wisdom, such advice, such solace to Pendragon. And I also really like how we do get a little bit of Mark and Courtney in this, but we don't get as much. So that has to be coming in the next book. I definitely know that their role really increases in book 5, which hopefully I'll get to in May. It being April 2nd, that means that my next book is going to be The Reality Bug. I'm actually most nervous to finish this book this month because I have a lot of other reading obligations. So I'm definitely going to be looking for this for some fun breaks in terms of readings that won't be on my Kindle. So I am really looking forward to The Reality Bug. I feel like this one is going to be a 5 out of 5 stars because we do deal with this like almost virtual reality type world, but it's not exactly virtual reality. I'll have to see and remember. But that's what I mean. You're talking about something that has some historical elements that is really interesting. But what I'm looking for in this fantasy series, because we've already gone to 2 such mythical and out there worlds, you know, going back to First Earth, I was kind of like, I wasn't just like as excited. It was kind of oddly placed for me in terms of the ratings. Now we're going to go to Velox and I'm so excited to go there. So let's get going with April. I can't believe we're already 3 books in. I feel like I'm going to get more and more emotional as the books go, but I am super excited to get to them. I did finish The Reality Bug before the end of April. It is currently April 29th. I finished this on April, I want to say 27th is when I finished this on. And this is a 5 out of 5 star read. This is what I'm talking about in a series that I feel like makes Pendragon so complex, so compelling to read. Because this is the book where, one, if you've read the series and you're rereading it, there are so many clues throughout all of the books and they just keep ramping up with every single book to what is going to happen in the 10th book. And I feel like the clues and the foundations for those storylines are really being laid in book 4. I think you kind of get some in book 3 too, but it's so prevalent in book 4 reading it back. And then this is the first loss. Like Saint Dane wins a territory. And I feel like this is something you don't see in other series, where it's always the protagonist that wins. They always come out on top every time. Now, I did think I misremembered. I thought that the first loss of a territory was actually in the lost city of Far, but something else emotionally damaging happened, so I just got them confused. But this is the first loss of a territory. And this is not the only territory that loses, which again, I just think makes the series so compelling to read because now you're like, I didn't think they would lose a territory. I thought I knew where this series was going. Not true at all. I also love Asia's like process of her own development and her own self-actualization in this book. I really think it's something super interesting. The Mark and Courtney storyline on Second Earth is really ramping up, and you just start to see signs of that there is going to be some type of breakdown, that these characters are majorly going to change. And I just like, I can't wait to relive all of that, to really, you know, annotate all of it. As you can see, doing pretty good with the annotation there. So I'm super happy. Definitely 5 out of 5. I can't wait to get to Blackwater. This has been the first time where I've finished this Pendragon book and I've really been sticking to I don't start the next Pendragon book until the first day of the next month. The ending of this book, I was like, well, I have to pick up Blackwater right away. I can't wait. I can't wait. I have not picked up Blackwater yet though. I am definitely going to probably start that right away on May 1st, but this is something I think is very exciting and I want to show you what all 4 of the books look like because I actually have them all out. Look Look at them. Look at all the annotations. I can't believe that we are already 4 months in. I am really excited to get to Blackwater. I have it here. I have plans to film some content with Blackwater before reading it. This is the first over 400 page book in the Pendragon series, so the first 3 have been under 400. So it's going to be interesting to see how I manage my time with this. I would love to not have to read this last minute, especially because I just want to pick it up and start reading it right now. So it's going to be interesting to see where Pendragon fits in terms of my priority of reading. But let's get on to May to read Blackwater. Just 2 more days and then I can pick it up and start reading it. I finished Blackwater by the skin of my teeth. Well, I don't know what happened to me this month. I don't know what was wrong. As you can see, I was doing really good reading every day. I got really far. On May 12th, I literally had like 20 pages left. Didn't pick it up until May 29th because I knew I wanted to finish it. Why did I do that? Well, my brain told me, oh, you're going to want to read the next book so bad. You probably want to finish it at the end of the month. And then I started traveling a bunch at the end of the month and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to finish this during this month. So because I was actually able to put it down for that long, I feel like it would be wrong to give this 5 stars. I still love Blackwater. I feel like the world is so imaginative. Bobby really gets pushed in terms of not being one of the dominant species on this planet. I think the mystery is extremely creative. I think the boundaries are pushed because after losing Velox, all of Hala is just kind of getting turned on its head, and Bobby really experiences that. Mark and Courtney getting more and more and more important. Their storyline is getting more complex. I feel like that's why the books get longer, usually. Going on throughout the series, I'm like staring at book 8 behind you right now. I want to get to book 8 so badly. It's my favorite one. But Blackwater, realistically, I'm giving a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I feel like it would be a 5 stars if it could have held my attention to the end. Clearly, I put it down. It didn't. So I feel like that has to be the most fair rating here. But I still really loved it. I also really like, again, how we see the complexity of winning a territory but losing in other senses. And Bobby gets just really hard on himself in this book. But I really appreciate that from a main character being able to recognize that like they're not perfect. And I know some people might be like, oh, well, it's kind of whiny that he, has all this power and doesn't think he's good enough. I don't think he's good enough. Are you kidding? There should definitely be other people, but with other people believing in him and his constant reflection, like he's working up to that point, he's growing just like everybody else is. So now that we finished Blackwater, we get to go to Zada. I am extremely excited. I remember the main conflict in this book. I remember that there is a lot of focus on Bobby being trained up in this book. Lore just like kicks his ass and is like, you have to learn how to fight and I'm gonna teach you. And we get the Traveler from book 1 definitely comes back in this book to help him fight, which is very exciting. I like that whole sequence. I like that growth because we've had 5 books and Bobby's like, I can't fight anyone. I suck. And at least he knows it. This is 405 pages, so a little bit shorter than Blackwater. Like I said, I remember the conflict is about water in this book with Rivers of Zada. I don't fully remember like what happens outside of that. I definitely remember the fighting sequence montage I made in my head while reading this. And then I know they get to water at some point. But I am very excited to continue reading this. I just feel the momentum building in this series, and that's what I love. If I didn't have any other responsibilities, I would probably fly through the last few books. But I am not going to do that. I kind of like the monthly deal. It's been really fun to film for the past now 5 months talking about Pendragon. And I can't wait to see just how I've changed filming clips over time or anything like that. I'm not making any promises with this book besides I'm going to finish it before the end of the month. That's it. I don't know when I'm going to finish it. If I want to finish it earlier in the month, I need to let myself finish it earlier in the month. But I also have quite a few books to read before I can actually get to this one, which like makes me really sad. But we're going to get to Rivers of Zada, Lore, classic Traveler girly. I feel like a lot of people like Lore. Can't wait to see their their banter continue. Can't wait to see what happens with Mark and Courtney, because I know their storyline, and maybe this is why I like book 8 so much, is because I think that's where their storylines get really crazy, is in book 8. I know book 9 and 10 are just like all the walls are blown apart, but I'm trying to remember at what point like Mark and Courtney's storyline really takes a turn into a way that I think readers weren't expecting. I definitely wasn't expecting the first time I read it. I don't think it's this though. I think this is definitely more Bobby focused. Maybe 7 we get a bit more. I don't know. We'll read, we'll see, we'll report back at either the end of June or the beginning of July. It's June 26th, and on June 24th, I finished Rivers of Zada. I am very proud of myself. I feel like this one is the one where I picked it up and put it down the most. So I feel like I have to rate it just a 4 out of 5, which sucks. I feel like that's, you know, one of my lowest rated ones. I think maybe it's the lowest rated one, but I feel like the start of this book was so jarring compared to book 5. And then I just felt really slow. I don't know what it was. This felt just like longer to me. And it definitely picked up at the end. I will say, when I started remembering what happened with Courtney and Mark and Saint Dane, that storyline got me really excited. But I guess I wasn't as excited about the Zada journey itself, which I was really surprised about. But I guess I'm not as surprised because I feel like we've been to Zada the most out of all of the territories. You know, we've been here in like a multitude of books. We've learned a lot about lore. So I think just because it felt a little repetitive, that's probably why it was just a little bit slower. I would not be surprised if this is potentially my least favorite book in the series. I feel like it's honestly only gonna go up from here, especially with The Pilgrims of Rain being book 8, but I'm getting ahead of myself. That is coming in August. What's coming in July is The Quilling Games. Look at this little chonker of a book. I mean, I'm trying to like compare it necessarily. I don't know, as best as I can. I just feel like this is really where the books start to get meaty. Let's see how many pages are in it. I'm not spoiling myself for this because I've already read it. So it's 486 pages. That is quite a bit of pages. Rivers of Zada was only 405, so we have an extra 81 pages to read with The Quilling Games, but I am actually really excited to keep reading. I remember some of The Quilling Games. The beginning of this book, I feel like I remember very, very well. I feel like I'm gonna hopefully fly through the beginning part. I will say that is something I experienced with the Rivers of Zada that I don't think I've experienced as much with other books, is I went in not remembering a ton, and then as I kept reading and reading, it started coming back to me. So I feel like that's gonna start to happen with The Quilling Games as well, which maybe that's why it was slower. I was just waiting to get to the action. I don't know. We'll have to see with The Quilling Games, because again, I remember the beginning of this book very, very distinctly. Like, I remember the mechanical spiders, I remember the arcade rooms, I remember Bobby playing some of the games, I remember the first time Bobby sees like the big screens, which is just all very exciting. I feel like that's a good first part of the book that I actually vividly remember. But I mean, Pilgrims of Rain, I vividly remember quite a bit of too, and I love that book. So it'll be interesting to see how reading this goes. Since I've now been reading the series for 6 months, I feel like I'm gonna keep doing this with different series of books. I like the pressure of how much just one book a month from a series provides me. It's enough to keep me interested reading in the series, but I don't feel like I'm going too fast or too slow. With the Pendragons, I can slow myself down because I've read them before. It'll be interesting with another series if I force myself to speed up because I can't read it, but I'm super interested to get to The Quilling Games. Like, I read the ending of Rivers of Zada and I wanted to pick this up instantly, but I'm not doing that. I am waiting until July 1st, which is a Monday, which kind of sucks, but that's okay. I have other books I can read in the meantime. I'm definitely going to pick out my colors to tab it tonight, and then we'll get into The Quilling Games, which I'm so excited to get to book 8, and this is the direct build up to it. So we just keep going and going and going, and soon the series is going to be over, and I'm kind of going to be sad, but I definitely have other series that I want to kind of read in this format where I read once a month, so hopefully I can keep it going. So let's speed forward to July and see if I give myself some time at the end of the month where I'm not reading Pendragon, or if I wait till the very last day of July to finish it. You saw that right. I did finish this book on July 18th. This is the fastest I've finished a Pendragon book. I think what helped is that I finished my book club books early, and then this was the last physical book that I'm really picking up for July until I go get more books from a book event. So I was able to fly through this. I absolutely loved it. I just say this has to be a 5 out of 5 stars. I forgot how good this one was. To be completely frank with you, I think this is absolutely masterful. I love, first of all, the Second Earth storylines with Mark and Courtney get even more twisted. I forget just how twisted they get at the beginning of this book and throughout it. I didn't remember. I thought a lot of the stuff that happened in this book happened in book 8. So I was very surprised to see that. And then the idea of these dangerous games on Quillen and the idea of betting and this corporation essentially taking control of the entire territory, I think is just a super interesting concept. And I really thoroughly enjoyed it. So it has to be a 5 out of 5 stars. Bobby learns a lot about himself in this book. You can kind of see him going through this very angry teenage stage, which I feel like a lot of main male characters go through in longer book series. But in this one, I feel like it made so much sense. And I was just with it the entire time. I could not put it down while I was on the plane. I didn't take video of me reading on the plane, by the way, but I did read this for about 4 hours on some plane rides. So we're moving from Quillen to my most anticipated book of the series, The Pilgrims of Rain. And today is July 19th. I can't pick this up until August 1st. I've done really good about sticking month to month, but oh my goodness, I'm so excited for this book specifically. I think this book has the best plot twist of the entire series. I think it shows so much growth in Bobby, and it shows so much of his reflection, his journey. I know stuff is going down in Second Earth too. I just don't remember what. And then the ending, to me, I remember this being the biggest cliffhanger in the series. And I ate it up. I ate it up completely. I believe this is our first over 500 page book. I don't know why I'm acting scared, like I'm gonna spoil the ending for myself. I can look up how many pages are there. Yeah, 5. Well, I will say, if you turn to the end of this book, it's gonna get spoiled for you if you haven't read this before, so don't do that. This is 547 pages. The Quillen Games was 480 pages, so we have an extra 80 pages in this book. I want to read it right now. It's so bad. It's so bad. The only way I would allow myself to read this book early, and I think this is a fair rule in the series, is if I do finish 2 more physical books that I have planned and another advanced reader copy that I have, then I feel like I would start my August TBR anyway. So we'll see if I can start this early. I'm so excited for this book. I feel like obviously having your favorite book be the 8th in the series, right? People are like, oh, you have to wait all the way to book 8 for your favorite. But I've clearly had some 5-star reads already throughout the series. Book 2 was a 5-star read. Book 4 was a 5-star read. Book 7's a 5-star read. This just happens to be my favorite, and I'm literally so excited. I am just amped to read it. I feel like this really sets us up towards the end of the series. You get so much momentum. You see where it's gonna go. I'm just really, really, really excited to read this. So hopefully the next clip will be me reading this in August, maybe in July. Who knows? But I have to read 3 more physical books, and I'm not the fastest reader in the world, and so maybe I'll get there, but I don't know. I'm just so excited. I'm so excited for this one. It is literally the last day of August. I finished this morning. It's just like a 5 out of 5 for me. I love the character arc that Bobby is going through. This is the lowest point. I think most readers hate him at this point, but I feel like I have so much appreciation that you've been through 8 books and you think you've won a territory again, but you feel like you've lost it and you just want to be done. And I feel like that is just such an interesting place to leave the story, and just how we get here, the twists and turns in this book that you get with the territories, the characters that you meet, the whole Courtney Mark subplot line when Courtney's trying to find Mark on First Earth. You know, how do we even get there? So I just feel like it's so packed with complexities, and I feel like these characters are growing with you as you read the series because they are getting more complex. You don't know who's right, who's wrong. You see the manipulation happen. I just think this is such a, it just makes me so hyped to read the rest of the series, knowing where it's gonna go. So again, this was the longest Pendragon book to date. This is my favorite. We're on this territory of Ibarra, the, island life that looks like everything's good, but it's not. There is complexities too with this group called the Jack Hills, which has the traveler Siri in it. They don't like the government, but they're gonna protect their government from outsiders. So I just feel like it really ups the complexity and it makes it such a fun read. And I just love this book. I think it was so fun. I feel like I read this in like the least amount of days of any books just because I knew I could fly through this one. And I feel like I did. I should not have left it towards the end of the month, but what are you gonna do, That means tomorrow I can start Raven's Rise, which I am actually very now amped to get to. It is 4 pages less long than Pilgrims of Rain, so we have another 544 page book ahead of us, but I'm extremely excited about it. Am I gonna start it right away? I don't know. Please don't ask me that. I have actually a lot of books to read for September, and I don't know what it's gonna look like. Do I hope I finish it before the last day of September? Absolutely, because I feel like I'll have more time to read this month than I did in August, so I'm very hopeful. I'm very excited. It's so weird just to see the difference between like what an untabbed book looks like and what a tabbed book looks like. I'm just, oh my gosh, I'm buzzing to start this right now. Like I flipped to see how many pages there were and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to start it right away. I want to start it so badly, but I'm not starting it today. If anything, I will start it tomorrow. Probably not realistically, just with like other books that I have to read, but I'm really excited to read this in September. So let's move on to book 9. I really don't, I'm trying to think if I remember more now. I remember I think what are going to be key scenes in this book with Mark and Courtney. I really mainly remember Mark and Courtney, to be honest. I don't remember a ton of Bobby in this book, but I know he's in here. I know he's going to be in here. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens through there. So let's go on to book 9. It's September 22nd and I have finished the 9th book in the Pendragon series, Raven Rise. The end of this book, let me tell you, I almost cried, and I'm not a huge crier. I almost cried at the end of this book, and it just gets me so hyped to read the 10th book, but then I remember the 10th book's the last book, so then I get kind of sad again. But in terms of Raven Rise, I am giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. I know, I just had a lot of big feelings about the ending, but it is losing a star for me. This is the point of the Pendragon series where when I tell people it's fantasy science fiction, this book really takes it to that science fiction, philosophical universe type feeling. And you just get a lot more waxing paragraphs from Bobby Pendragon, who is 18, right? So we're on the upper end of the YA spectrum, and I feel like you really have to grow with the books. I would be curious to see what somebody who's 12 or 10, because all of the books say ages 10 and up on the back of them. I would be curious how they thought, because I still have some trouble grasping some of the concepts. The one thing I will say about DJ McHale's writing is that you can tell that he is made for screenwriting, just based off of what you imagine in this book. Also, I feel like I could picture everything very clearly in this book, and I feel like that is something that I don't always get when it comes to science fiction, so I really appreciated that from him. But Bobby just waxes on so long. It just made it a little bit tougher to get through. I absolutely love the Mark and Courtney storylines that we get. Mark and Courtney teaming up back together. They work with Patrick, the traveler from Third Earth in this book, to try to stop this Ravinia cult, whatever Ravinia's all about, with Alexander Namir. And you have Bobby coming back. So you have the trio is back together again. They have not been back together since book 5. That is the last time they were back together. And then they're back together, but not for very long. But you know what's coming, because after this 9th book, I don't even want to hold it up, is the 10th book, which means that we're almost done with the series, which is crazy. And I absolutely love the title, The Soldiers of Hala, because on the last page of this book, you get a reference to to the soldiers of Hala. So it's all coming together. Oh my goodness. I forgot just also how much happens in this book. You spend a lot of time on Pendragon in this book. Totally forgot all of that. I won't even lie. I was like, where am I going? And then you spend a lot of time obviously on Second Earth. That I remembered a ton, but I completely forgot about the Pendragon storyline, which is like a third of this book. I just casually forgot about it until rereading it. So hopefully I don't forget it again if I do another reread of the series, because I feel like I paid a lot more closer attention in this book. You can tell with this book, at least for me, that I feel like they tell authors like, hey, make sure your characters have a struggle that'll keep readers reading. This is the book where like nothing goes right. Everything goes wrong. There is no happy points in this book. If there are, they last for a page. Like, you are just in distress and turmoil for the majority of the book, even though the trio does come back together for a little bit, even though Mark and Courtney are back together, even though, you know, Bobby is taking on his role as lead traveler again, in a sense. This book is just pure turmoil, sadness the entire time. And I really appreciate that leading up to the Soldiers of Hala, which I know is not perfect and like happy stories either, but I think it's just, you get so low in book 9. You're like, give me a great comeback arc in book 10 that'll round out the series perfectly. So very excited for that. It is only September 22nd, so I can't start this for a few more days, which is honestly okay. I'll start other books early. I really do want to read this, but I know I have other book obligations. This book was 544 pages. I feel like I read it pretty fast. I think I got a little bit of book fatigue from how much I was reading of it. Our final book, I love being able to look at the pages because I know what's going to happen, is 594. So we almost got a 600 pager back here. I liked what I was doing in terms of reading this book. I tried to read at least 50 pages a day once I started it. I think I'm going to do the same thing here, where I really break it up to not get so much fatigue, because I know Mr. Bobby Pendragon is going to wax and wane philosophically a few times in this book. I already know it. So I know that in order to avoid fatigue, I will have to break it up. But hobby ho, let's go on to the last book of this series. I can't believe it's been like 10 months in the making. I love the consistency of it. I think it's been nice to slow down and really ingest every book, forcing myself to stop and not just like consume them so quickly. I feel like I'm definitely going to remember this reread the most out of any that I've done. And I'm excited to see where we'll go, even though I already know where we're going, but I don't remember every single detail of this book. So I'm excited to jump back in once again. And we've arrived at the final Pendragon book. The reread is complete. This was a 5 out of 5 stars. Just a wonderful way to end a series. And I feel like what I really enjoyed about this book was being able to visit so many territories again. And I feel like DJ was extremely smart, because you don't necessarily get to spend an equal amount of time with every traveler. And I feel like DJ did a really good job of giving us more time with the travelers that we didn't necessarily get to see as much throughout the series. Specifically, I'm talking about Ellie from Quillen. You don't really see her a lot because she's really introduced at like the very end of the 7th book. And then Patrick Mack, you kind of see him in book 3, but that's about it. And because this is centered around Third Earth, you don't really get to see him shine until it's his territory. So I do think it was interesting. You do also see Patrick in book 9, I should say that too. But I feel like Bobby doesn't actually spend as much time with him, because it's definitely Courtney and Mark that are spending more time with him in book 9. So I think to see him and Bobby interact was really cool. Being able to go back to Chloral was wonderful. I feel like it's a fan favorite territory that people love to go to. I feel like going back to Zada was also a good move. I do admit that Rivers of Zada is my least favorite book in the series, but I think being able to call back to Lore again, see kind of her progression, was extremely smart move. And then spending so much time on Elong Long, I think is also a good move. I feel like Long was such a pivotal point in the series, so to go back there and almost like associate some new memories with Long, I think was really, really interesting. And also spending time with Kasha. You do get to spend a lot of time with her in book 5, but because of her tragically dying in the flume, I think it's nice to be able to kind of see her get some glory again in this book. And then, of course, I loved seeing Mark and Courtney in this book. I wish we saw a little bit more of Courtney, of course, but that's definitely not deterring from what's happening in the series. This was already a long book, so if I wanted more Courtney, oh my goodness, it just wouldn't have made sense in the story, but it's always like a silly little want that I have. So I am so attached to this series. I think it just lends itself to a reread because the last sentence in this book is the first sentence of The Merchant of Death, and I just think it's such a fun, full circle experience to go back again and again and again, to go through all the worlds of Hala, and I feel like it's very age appropriate, so action forward, but there is such a good resolution at the end. I think DJ was so smart with how he did the resolution because you don't know which way he's going to go. I will say this book, it's a little bit more on the sci-fi side. It's a little bit philosophical, but I don't think as badly as book 9, which is why I want to give this a 5 stars. And there you have it, all 10 Pendragon books, read and annotated. All my little fun, colorful annotations. We did have quite a few 5 stars in this series. And by quite a few, I mean half of them were 5 stars. You have book 2, This Lost City of Far. You have book 4, The Reality Bug. Book 7, The Quilling Games. Book 7 was the most surprising one to be a 5 star. I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel like this was such a good one, kind of out of nowhere. I really feel like this was underrated for me, but I think it was a fan favorite before. My personal favorite still has to be book 8 with the Pilgrims of Rain. I am standing by that, even though I just rated book 10 a 5 star as well. I still absolutely adore the Pilgrims of Rain. So you've watched me over the past 10 months in this less than an hour video, I think, of rereading my favorite series as a kid. This was so fun, and I haven't watched myself back yet, but I know that I have grown in these past 10 months, so it's gonna be really interesting to watch everything back and edit it and see what has happened over the past 10 months. I will say there is more Pendragon content. There are these books that follow each one of the travelers that I have not read yet. I was debating putting it in this video, but I wanted this video to be solely about the series. So I do have these that I still want to read. So if you want my thoughts and reactions on these, definitely let me know. And then there also is this picture book that I found at a library sale that gives you more visualizations into Hala. So if you want me to add that to my Pendragon bonus content type of video, definitely let me know. I also do have all of my signed copies of the Pendragon books now, which I am just so extremely grateful for. Those I am definitely going to treasure. I will show people them, but I'm not lending them out. Those are gonna be for me. So this has been really fun to film a long-term series, and I think for as long as I'm continuing to make videos, I'm going to have some type of long-term series that I am filming. And my next series is going to be reading the ACOTAR series for the first time in 5 months. Maybe less because of this short book, but I'm giving myself some grace. So definitely follow along as I go into my next series. I absolutely love the Pendragon series. I hope this reignited your love for the Pendragon series or made you interested in the Pendragon series. Definitely let me know, and I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to keep on reading, and hobby ho, let's go.